Donna, let's start with you, personal branding guru, we can almost say. Put into context for us what personal branding actually is.
Okay, so personal branding is the distinct and clear idea that comes to people's mind when they think about you as a personal brand. And the fact of the matter is you don't have to be a celebrity to have a personal brand. In fact, we are all branded, whether we like it or not.
Right.
And the way that I like to describe it is your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Is it only important to have a personal brand within an organization, within a corporate environment?
No, absolutely not. Personal branding is relevant if you're an entrepreneur building a business.
Right.
It's also incredibly important if you're in a corporate and need to stand out from the clutter.
Now, this is something that you can actually relate to, isn't it, Liezl? Because you're in the business of reputational management and actually going to organizations and saying you don't just need a corporate communication strategy, but you need a reputational management strategy as well. Are you seeing South African companies taking that on as a strategy?
Not really. I think the focus has been so heavily slanted on marketing, advertising and branding that companies by and large forget the non-commercial elements of corporate communication. And that is the media strategy behind the spokesperson that you appoint, the stakeholder government and media relationships that you develop, the mechanisms of developing that, of implementing it, monitoring and tracking that, and also developing sustainable programs for the implementation of those things. So it's really a very important focal area, and I think companies, especially in South Africa, don't really get it the way they should.
Do you so are you saying that companies in South Africa are more reactive than proactive?
Some of them are not reactive, even reactive. Some don't realize that some of their marketing, advertising, branding budgets should go into developing sustainable programs.
But what I mean with reactive, so when there's an issue or there's a problem, they react to it then. So they're not proactive in saying, this is our risk assessment, this is how we're going to deal with it.
I think most companies are then reactive. Others, when something happens, they just leave it and shrug their shoulders because they don't know how to deal with it. So, yeah.
Dominik, what have you found in the corporate environment?
Well, you see, what we are really looking for the most part, is what's the emotional connection that people have, either with an individual or with a whole organization. Because corporate reputation management should never be a vanity exercise. It should be a strategic exercise. It's not about just looking good. It's about getting the cooperation from various stakeholder groups. And that's mostly driven by an emotional connection. So we are really after understanding that emotional connection and seeing where it comes from.
So this is what Liezl was saying, is establishing the relationships with the stakeholders, whether it's the public, whether it's the media, whether it's government in your case. So you actually go about researching and seeing about what is a reputation and what's your reputation like within organizations. How do you go about the research, Dominik?
Well, so it depends on who we're researching. If we go general public, then it's a statistical exercise. You need lots of respondents. We go out there, do telephone interviews, maybe via the internet, to ask them questions, firstly about that emotional connection, because that really drives the behavior, whether people want to cooperate with either the individual or the organization, buy things, work with them, support them. So that's what drives behavior, and that's what we're ultimately after. And then we're trying to find out, where does that emotional connection come from? How can you build it? Where are the weak points? And how do you go about then really on an ongoing basis managing your reputation?
So Donna, you talk about authenticity is absolutely key in building a successful personal brand. Take us through why you say that.
Because when you build a personal brand, it's not about trying to build something other than yourself. What you're really doing is identifying your best talents, your best strengths, your best attributes, and packaging them in a way that you can market effectively. So authenticity is key to that. Because if you're trying to be somebody who you aren't, you're just going to be seen as fake. And, you know, companies, when they don't build authentic brands are also not perceived positively.
And that is what you, I'm guessing, seeing as well.
I think that that's really probably the most important insight, is most people, when they hear reputation management, they think there is spin doctoring. And spin doctoring is really the surest way to destroy your reputation, because people will eventually find out what's true. That's also true for you and me. If we try to create an impression that we can't live up to, people will like us even less and work with us even less. So the authenticity, being ethical, being honest, is really fundamental to that kind of an effort.
Liezl, you agreeing?
I think Dominik is so right. It's one of our biggest challenges is when a company calls us and they have a media disaster or a relationship problem with a government institution or someone that they have a legal dispute with, and they call us to fix it immediately. And that it's so much harder to then fix something where a relationship should have been developed over a period of 3 or 5 years. No attention was given to that, and they expect to throw money at the problem and to have it fixed immediately. Certainly there are many remedies that can be employed to do that, and as we do, but it's not a sustainable way, and to do those relationships, to develop them from scratch properly and have your organizational structure work properly so that your commercial and non-commercial elements are aligned with a single message to all your stakeholders. That's really the key to being able to withstand crises as and when they do occur.
But give us some examples maybe of when things have gone wrong and what you've done to remedy that in terms of crisis management.
You know, we've just done an exercise with a multinational South African subsidiary of a listed company, where we had to do a needs analysis of what was the problem in their corporate communications. And the structure was just shocking. And you would never think that a listed company that has tons of shareholders' money cannot have those basics right. So we developed a framework for that and made recommendations to say this is the meat and vegetables and potatoes you need to create a healthy company body over the next 3 to 5 years. Yeah. And the company executives who didn't really understand corporate communications wanted a small retainer advisory solution. And you can't sell someone a cupcake to fix an unhealthy body.
Right.
So in some cases, ignorance or arrogance or whatever then even thwarts that process. And some companies are proactive and do a sustainable program with developing their stakeholder relations and their reputational management, but many in South Africa don't.
Donna, what are you seeing in the corporate environment? Are companies or organizations buying into the idea of personal branding and how actually important it is?
I'm seeing it more and more, I must be honest. Because the reason being is that before people buy a company products or services, they buy you as a person.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that when individuals start branding and marketing themselves, what they're doing in essence is helping to brand and market the organization.
Right. So branding from the inside out.
Absolutely.
Give us some examples of where it's actually worked out very well.
Okay, well, you know, I've just got a number of organizations, in fact one that has a number of very clever, intellectual, bright, go-getting people. And they're an international company. And what they've discovered there is by helping to understand where each person is a specialist and an expert, they can actually develop their niche, go out and market it. And what it's doing is helping the company actually make itself unique and stand out.
But Dominik, you know all about this because you actually are able to do an internal analysis.
Yes.
Isn't it? Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is that personal branding should be a subset of organizational reputation. Otherwise, you get this really famous CEO, and that can actually be a real risk to an organization. You need to look at what should be the reputation of the CEO. A very prominent example right now is Eskom. You look at how the reputation of the organization has been completely demolished with load shedding. And we're now seeing that reputation being built again. And it's mostly built really through Brian Damas's efforts. What we're seeing in our research is right now people are looking really for the leader's reputation.
Right.
And Brian has gone out there, be public, in a non-boisterous way, really appropriate, and has said to the nation, this is what's so, been really transparent. It's not that Eskom's reputation now is fantastic, but you can see with being honest, transparent, and real, you can build a reputation, even if it's tarnished almost beyond recognition.